2002?
2002.
Welcome back to an ongoing series where we talk about the top 10 games of the
Two decades.
2 decades of Game of the Year. We're talking about year 2002. And what are we starting with, Mr. Tyler?
Whew, boy, what a year this was. First of all, let's talk about some Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Tell me about CJ.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Gee whiz. Okay.
Do we need to talk about the Haitians first?
We're just starting with Vice City.
Yeah.
This is a list. Wow, this is a list.
Wow.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see it until just now.
It's a list and a half.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City. We talked about Grand Theft Auto 3 last episode.
Yes, we did. So there was a 9-month development time after GTA 3 to Vice City,
and it feels like it.
You can tell.
It feels like it feels like it's on the same engine, but we have a character. We have a star-studded cast. We have voice acting that's
Ray
really
Liotta.
well done. Ray Liotta, Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
That chick from Waterboy.
Right.
Burt Reynolds. The list goes on. But the cool thing about this one was they really took that Grand Theft Auto world and gave you more of a purpose to be in it. And you know, in Grand Theft Auto 3, you had a bunch of money, but unless you were buying weapons or whatever, you really didn't spend money on
there was
anything.
not much to do with it.
In Vice City, you're always pressed for cash because there comes a point whenever you basically... let's talk about the story just a little bit.
Okay.
Slight spoiler alert. Basically, you get sent to Vice City, which is Miami. You're playing as Tommy Vercetti, one of the coolest Grand Theft Auto characters, if not the coolest Grand Theft Auto character. And it's kind of like this Scarface redemption kind of story where he's like, you know what? I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to be the crime lord. And that's where it starts. You start spending all your money on businesses and managing them. And every time you buy a new business, like a car dealership or something like that, you unlock all these activities associated with that business. And then that was really the big, like, that's like the middle of the game. It's just you creating your own work for yourself instead of going to all these mission givers. It's a really good game. They added a lot of new mechanics in this that really developed the Grand Theft Auto franchise, like being able to jump from your car.
Yeah. Just the integration of motorcycles was a big thing. Getting to have a Faggio.
Yeah. It's actually pronounced Faggio.
Well,
but it's Faggio.
You know, we're terrible people. Did you know that the missions were actually structured around episodes of Miami Vice?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
individual missions were structured around specific episodes of Miami Vice. Like the Hauser brothers went and watched Miami Vice, and then they were like, let's recreate that episode in this game.
The dude who does Lance Vance's voice is the guy from Miami Vice, not Don Johnson, the other guy, the black guy.
No,
I forget his name. Anyway,
you know better than I.
But it's a really incredible game, and one of my favorite Grand Theft Autos to this day.
For sure.
Actually, I'm gonna say we put it in fans of the genre.
Okay.
Because if you like open world, free roam, sandbox style games, this was like, you know, Grand Theft Auto 3 was the progenitor of it, and this was the next step. And
so this was officially my first Grand Theft Auto. I actually played 3 after I played Vice City. I remember I went over to my grandmother's house, and my cousin was like, hey, I got this new game, let's check it out. And it was Vice City, and it was one of those moments, like, you know, when you, like, your first time playing Halo 1, it was one of those moments of, like, man, video games are crazy these days.
Yep.
You know, like all the colors. They did such a great job of obfuscating how bad the game actually looked with all the lens flare and the bloom.
Also, the Rockstar Games just has a way with detail, like Tommy Vercetti's shirt flapping in the wind,
right?
Or and just the voice acting and the storytelling.
Yeah, there's over an hour and a half cutscenes of story. A lot of it is voice act, or all the cutscenes are voice acted, obviously. But there's tons of voice acting in the game. It was ahead of its time. And as you can tell, according to this tier list, it stands up and it's worth playing if you like those games.
Yep, for sure. Fans of the genre.
Fans of the genre. You want to put some fog?
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 1?
Kingdom Hearts 1. Yes, but let's notate this is in the fans of the genre.
Okay, yeah.
We keep making this mistake where we don't keep up with it, and after the fact we're like, wait, where does this go? Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, man.
I traded a copy of Downhill Domination for the PS2 for this game.
Good call.
A mutual of ours.
Good call.
Traded it. Kingdom Hearts. Man, you're going to find a lot of love at this table for that video game franchise.
This is a game that whenever it came out, I couldn't believe it. I saw the first preview for this in a PlayStation Underground magazine and demo disc, and I was like, I can't believe... It's like one of those Reese's peanut butter cup moments where it's like, hey, you got chocolate in my peanut butter. Hey, you got peanut butter in my chocolate. You know, it's like, hey, you got your Final Fantasy in my Disney, or hey, you got your Disney in my Final Fantasy.
Right.
It's really, really good. It's kind of got that behind-the-back third-person action. It's not turn-based. It's got it has RPG elements with leveling up.
Yeah,
and,
it does.
You know, allocating ability points. and being able to customize your character a little bit as far as his abilities are concerned. And even in the beginning, depending on how you answer certain questions, will depend on how your playstyle of your character.
Right.
The first one is special because it's not super easy. I feel like it has like a layer of difficulty to it that is perfect. It has optional things that are kind of like super bosses and stuff like that.
Yep. Ziza.
They did a really good job of integrating the Disney and the Final Fantasy together.
Sure, this is the best one they ever did when it comes to that stuff. Yeah, this one the
story wasn't too out of control. The music unparalleled with Yoko Shimomura at the helm with those awesome battle themes. She was able to take these Disney worlds and create songs for them that weren't licensed, and like the Tarzan level sounds like Tarzan.
Yeah, it still carried the feeling of Tarzan without having to have Phil Collins. Yeah, it's an incredible game. A lot of the difficulty, at least by today's standards, comes from the not so great camera work, the not so great character controls,
which some of that was fixed.
Alleviated.
In the
was
remaster.
Which that's also because I don't know if you know this, but they actually lost all of the original source code for Kingdom Hearts 1, and they had to remake the entire game from scratch. So they did remedy a lot of that stuff. But even if you go back, and which I have, whenever that big bundle came out, and it was like Kingdom Hearts 2,
the all-in-one pack.
Whenever that one came out back in 2016, I think I went back and played Kingdom Hearts 1. And even though they did fix a lot of the camera, I mean, the camera stuff feels really good by today's standards. But just like the moving through the environments and the way you control your characters doesn't feel as good today as it did then. Like if Kingdom Hearts 3 is your first Kingdom Hearts, which for a lot of people it has been, that's been one big surprise. That's been one big surprise about in this year of games, Kingdom Hearts 3. I've heard a lot of people say this is their first one. Going back to Kingdom Hearts 1 is going to be difficult just from the control standpoint. But I think
it's a lot. You don't have as many crazy like jumping up and flipping and flying around.
They did a lot to make
reaction commands.
Exactly. They did a lot to make the controls a lot easier, less of like a character action game, like less like Bayonetta, and more like what'd you say? Action command actions or something like
the reaction commands,
time button prompts.
Yeah, you don't have any of that in the first.
Yeah, so the closest thing you have to it are your summons.
Prefer that.
I actually do. Like
I prefer the reaction commands. Make it a little too.
We don't need to get into Kingdom Hearts 3. We have
we'll be talking about.
Yeah,
this.
we have feelings about that. But Kingdom Hearts 1 is a special game. It's a game that is just filled with magic and like endless possibility.
There's a level of charm to this game that's unparalleled.
When you were a kid and you weren't you didn't have your sight set on the video game industry like we do now. You didn't know what the next planet was. It was covered in like a shroud of blackness, and there's no telling like what is right around the corner. I can't wait to see.
Like, oh my god, I'm going to say Disney World. I'm going to Tarzan World.
Unlike with
to Under the Sea.
Exactly, Aladdin. Unlike with Kingdom Hearts 3, one great disappointment about that game is that they revealed all the worlds
before it ever came out.
And so, but with Kingdom Hearts 1, you just didn't know this, and so like all you could see was that black cloud and like the shape of a planet. It's like, what is this? Yeah. It is an extremely magical experience.
Where are you feeling?
That's something I'm really stuck on right now, man.
Yeah, I can't decide. I'm gonna say either fans of the genre or must play. I think.
Okay.
I would say fans of the series, but I kind of prefer Kingdom Hearts 1's difficulty or lack of reaction commands and stuff like that. Especially the remastered versions are really good.
Yeah, the remastered version is very good.
I know we're talking about the base version, but if you're going to pick this up, you're picking up the remastered version.
And that's gonna be more of a thing as we get into this generation of games.
Yeah, this is tough. I could flip a coin in this one. I'm trying to take myself out of the equation here.
So I don't think it belongs in must play.
I'll accept that.
I think it does have a little has too many problems, but for anyone who's a fan of like action platformers or character action games, this is a must play. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy, if you're a fan of Disney, I mean, how many people do you know or have you heard of that aren't really gamers? They don't really care about video games, but they like Kingdom Hearts because they like Disney
characters,
or whatever
Especially
else.
Kingdom Hearts 3, Jesus Christ.
This is a special game.
Yeah, let's put it there. That seems that I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, me too.
Oh man, let me write this down. Metroid Prime.
Metroid Prime is our third game to talk about. Man, Retro Studios. So Retro, I don't know.
This is the kind of game that put them on the map, right?
It was the game that put them on the map. They actually started working with Nintendo in Jet Force Gemini. They helped Rare. They were like a co-developed studio with Rare on Jet Force Gemini. So that was like their first like conversations being had with Nintendo. And then Metroid Prime was like the big game that
also
made them who they are.
Metroid kind of skipped a generation. There was no
did.
Metroid game on 64, even though Samus made a appearance in Super Smash Brothers. She
Right.
didn't have a game. I think she had some Game Boy Advance games and stuff like that, maybe before Metroid Prime, like Fusion, Zero Mission maybe. But Metroid Prime is the first one to put you inside the visor of Samus. We're going into first person. This isn't a side-scrolling platformer anymore.
It wasn't originally a first-person game. Actually, it was originally developed to be a third-person perspective game. But somewhere along the way, there was like...
They made the right call.
They did. There were some Miyamoto conversations, and there were some conversations with the head of Retro, and they couldn't get the third-person perspective to feel just right. So they did the the first-person perspective, and it ended up working out extremely well. Being able to see, like, they did the classic thing where you can see your visor, like the HUD is the stuff on your visor. You can see your face.
And when you walk through the water, it would fog up, or if you got hit by something electric, you could, like, your stuff would start shorting out.
Right.
A lot of really great presentation things in this game.
Yeah.
A lot of lore in this game. I think the biggest problem that most people can talk about with Metroid Prime is backtracking. Some people don't like it. Backtracking is very prominent in the first one. It's like, oh, I just picked up the super missile. There's a super missile door I need to go in that's way on the other side of the map.
Right.
So if you don't like going through the same corridors over and over again, it can kind of get to you. It didn't bother me as much because I like that feeling of like, oh, where have I seen this? Where have I needed this item
Right, trying
now?
to mentally figure out.
I like that. And that's what, you know, I hate using this term Metroidvania. That's what Metroidvania is. But you put in that first-person combat, I think it kind of changes up the formula enough to make it something brand new.
So I'm not a huge fan of Metroidvanias insofar as the 2D games are concerned. It's one of those genres that I've never been able to take to, but I really like them in any other 3D perspective, be it a third-person perspective or a first-person perspective. And this is one of the first games where I had that realization, because I've tried to go back and play Castlevania, I've tried to go back and play Metroid, and I just can't. But whenever you bring it into 3D, there's something about, like, we human beings, we interact with the world in 3 dimensions. There's something about playing a game in that style of the Metroidvania style, where there's backtracking, where you have a big open map that you have to figure out and solve puzzles, where your brain kind of recognizes checkpoints and recognizes landmarks better than in 2D. And I don't like doing the work of the 2D style. I love doing it in 3D. Metroid Prime, I didn't play it on GameCube. I played it on Wii, so my opinion here is going to be a little muddied.
Well, you probably got some better controls out of that. If your Wii was set up correctly.
Yeah, so we can't speak to the Wii version because we're talking about GameCube.
Also, so what makes it so different is that there was no dual stick. It was all done through one stick. And they alleviated that with kind of a targeting system, like a lock-on system. So it sounds weird if I tell you did all your movement with one stick. But it works. It does feel pretty good. Now, it's been a while since I played it, and I also replayed it on Wii as well.
I'll just say it felt very good on Wii. It was really good on Wii.
I never had an issue with targeting or anything like
GameCube.
that. But like I can't remember in the Wii if you could hard lock on things. I know you could just totally free aim everywhere. You didn't get that free aim with Metroid Prime on the GameCube. You couldn't just. Gotcha. You can kind of look around a bit. But I think the C stick was for changing ammo types. Your types, okay. Or blaster type. Also, it still looks really good. It looks great. I remember seeing some guy playing it on The Basement on BET. Do you remember that?
No, I know The Basement, but I don't remember the segment.
The host was playing it one time. And
That's funny.
And he was like, "Oh, I love just turning into a ball and turning out of a ball." I was like, okay. But it looks great. It sounds great.
It does.
The sound design is incredible.
Yeah.
I believe Tommy Tallarico worked on that. And then the music, he didn't do the music, but the music's really good too.
So here's hoping to a Metroid Prime remaster trilogy coming out to the Switch, please. Like, can we get a definitive version of these games? I would love to go back and play these games. But as it stands for the GameCube version, is this a fan of the series game?
I could see it. It's either that or genre. It's one of the two. I can't see it in skippable, and I can't see it in must play.
It's not skippable. And I don't think it's must play.
I'd say like if they released it on Switch and they were like, hey, it's available now. There's no reason to go back to the GameCube version.
Agreed.
So I could say fans of the series comfortably.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. I feel
that's what feels best to me, based on my experience playing the Wii and hearing some of your issues with the GameCube version.
That one analog stick might throw some people for a loop.
I think it would. Yeah.
I don't know.
I would say if you're going back to play Metroid Prime, shouldn't you pick up the Wii version? Probably. I think so too. Panzer the genre series. Excuse me. I'm really ready to talk about this one, Brandon.
The Elder Scrolls Morrowind. So let me start off by saying I don't have as much experience with Morrowind as I did Oblivion and Skyrim. After Oblivion is really where my Elder Scrolls experience started.
Sure.
But I did have Morrowind, and we played Morrowind, but we got that like right after we got Oblivion, because we were like, oh, let's play the other games.
Let's go back. Yeah.
Kind of rough these days.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of rough. It's
as far as talking about games that are hard to go back to mechanically, Morrowind is one of out of every game that we've talked about, this is one of the toughest.
It's difficult. It's a difficult game. It doesn't like in Skyrim. It tells you like to the T exactly where you need to go. Like, go find the secret gem that's hidden in this ancient grotto. It tells you where the grotto is. It tells you exactly where the gem...
It puts the reticle on your HUD. It's in game.
Yeah, it's in game. It shows you everything. In this game, if the guy's like, hey, you need to go follow this trail, you're going to see a mossy rock.
Right.
You're going to take a right. You're
going to
keep going, go into the woods.
Okay. Watch out for the giant flea things.
Yeah, watch out for all this stuff. And then whatever that guy told you is what you need to do.
You have to follow his advice.
You might have like a little journal that says like, I need to follow where that guy told me where to go. Yeah. And if you remember where to go, then you don't know where to go.
So there's something in between the ease of Skyrim, or like, it's not the ease. That's not the word. The hand holdiness of Skyrim and the just the demanding nature of Morrowind, which is where we would like to be. And Oblivion isn't exactly there either, but that's where I would like to see Elder Scrolls 6 go, because I don't want it to be Skyrim, and it's not going to be Morrowind.
You don't want it to be baby mode, and you don't want it to be like balls of the wall difficult.
Exactly. So Morrowind, let's talk about the things that Morrowind does well, because we could talk a long time about how well it doesn't hold up. It has maybe the best story in Elder Scrolls period. Did you know that it has more NPCs than Oblivion and Skyrim combined? It has more life. It has more like interesting environments than any of the Elder Scrolls games.
Couldn't you kill an NPC and totally kill a quest line?
Yes, I love that. Now that can for someone who has that accident and they're like, oh man, they get pissed off. Like, why would they design it this way? I can sympathize there, but I love the idea.
Just don't kill everyone you see.
Exactly. I love the idea that you
don't play like an idiot.
Right. I love the idea that you have to be very careful and methodical about the way that you approach this game. If Elder Scrolls 6 is something like Red Dead Redemption 2, which is like this like something like that's kind of demanding in the way that Morrowind was, I'll be really happy. But Morrowind was like a CRPG that they ported to the Xbox. That's how I played it in these days, was the Xbox version.
See, I only played the PC version.
Yeah. Of course, it didn't control super well. But the thing that was magic to me as a young kid was the being able to go up to anyone and have these long, in-depth conversations where the dialogue lasted a lot long. Everyone was more verbose in Morrowind.
There wasn't full voice acting.
There wasn't.
You had to read.
It was readable dialogue.
Hello, what were you called?
Oh gosh.
Outlander.
Something like that.
Hello, Outlander. And then would have like a paragraph.
Right. It was something you had to read. But there was so much dialogue in the game that for me, as a person who loves dialogue in video games, there's a lot of lore. There's a lot to uncover.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of the most foreign of all Elder Scrolls environments, with the giant flea things that make you fast travel. The
Silk Striders.
Literally, Silk Striders, yeah. The houses and stuff are literally built out of the carapaces of killed giant bugs and stuff.
Morrowind as a land, as an environment, is super interesting.
Super interesting.
Probably the most bizarre.
Yeah. So this
of
is
all the Elder Scrolls games.
The game only takes place on one island of Morrowind, so you're not getting all of Morrowind. Hopefully, we'll go to Morrowind in something that's not just Elder Scrolls Online.
Solstheim.
I would love to see the entirety of the place. One really cool thing about we were talking about Skyrim a minute ago. One connection there: the Dragonborn DLC takes place on the same island that the Morrowind expansion or DLC takes place on.
Yeah, right. So Solstheim, that's where you go in Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the worst part about Morrowind is just how aged. So like the combat and stuff.
It's slow. Everything is slow.
Feels pretty bad. Yeah. It's hard to go back to, but I'm gonna flip this over to you.
Okay.
doesn't feel bad if you're a fan of the series.
Woo! No, so if you're saying that so that we don't have to put it in skippable, I am with you.
That's what I'm going for.
This game is too good to be skippable, but there are great detractors. I would say this about this game. We've talked a lot about remakes, remasters, and all that. The Skywind mod that's in development right now is one of my most anticipated things ever, because I've never actually beaten Morrowind, but I want to so bad. I want to so bad because I know how good of a game it is narratively. I know how good of a game it is as an RPG. It's the most RPG of all the Elder Scrolls games. Like, it is such a demanding game.
Deep RPG roots.
So I think fans of the series.
Yeah, let's stick it there because I don't want to put it. I don't want to.
It's the best place for it.
Yeah, I don't want to put it as skippable.
No, it's not.
Panzer Dragoon.
Panzer Dragoon
This one's
Orta.
all you. All I know about Panzer Dragoon, I think I played a demo of it one time. On-rail shooter. It's basically kind of like your Star Fox style gameplay. You're on the back of a dragon, man.
Yeah. So Panzer Dragoon is such an interesting series to me. I've only ever played Orta. I never played the first one or the sequel. Those were both Sega Saturn games. I never had a Sega Saturn. But as a kid, I really liked those rail shooters. House of the Dead, Star Fox. What was the Resident Evil spinoff? Umbrella Chronicles?
Umbrella Chronicles and Darkside Chronicles.
Yeah. Pokemon Snap. Like, I loved those rail shooters as a kid. And so when Panzer Dragoon came to the Xbox, and as an Xbox kid, I was really interested. It had the stamp on the cover, only on Xbox, so it's like, ooh, let's check this out. And I fell in love with it. This is a game where if you took the mechanics of Star Fox 64, but put it in the world design of Nausicaa, which is a Studio Ghibli movie, that you're gonna have Panzer Dragoon Orta. It is one of the best on-rail shooters ever made. Period. It has incredible music. It's very Japanese, which I really like that kind of thing. I like when games are super Japanese. It has a pretty, what is a story in an on-rail shooter? It's about a little girl who's like trapped in a tower.
Go fight through all these different trials and get to the bad guy at the end.
Yeah, there is a story there. It's about Orta, who she's like this Rapunzel-like character trapped in a tower. She's imprisoned there by these nomads, which again is very Nausicaa-like. And then the Imperial army comes along and razes the town, and she escapes because the dragon comes and saves her. And then you're trying to basically overthrow the Empire. Very Japanese. How many games have you heard about that are set up in Japanese games that are set up to overthrow the Empire? Like 90% of them. So it's whatever. But like the way that you control the dragon, so all the dragon attacks are lock-on based.
You're continuously going forward, but you can move all around the screen.
Exactly. And all of the dragon's attacks are locked-on based, but Orta has a pistol that you can control freely. Like, it's a free aim pistol. So if you want to get like precise aiming while you're shooting with the dragon, locking onto these enemies, but you want to shoot something else over here, you can do that. There are 3 different dragons that you control in the game: a heavy one, a light one, and then like the mid-range one that's kind of an all-around character. So like the heavy is for like when you have tons of ads and you got a bunch of people to kill. The mid-range one is for like any situation or bosses, and then the light one is for like those challenge areas where you're trying to like.
Choose this before the mission.
I think so. I can't remember. It's been a long time. But I want to say that Panzer Dragoon Orta it's one of the best Panzer Dragoon games. I think there are 6 of them.
One of the last good rail shooters.
One of the last good rail shooters. So this came out the same year as Rez. And I think Rez and Dragoon Orta are like the last good ones, because after that there was.
Then the other rail shooters that we got were like the Wii games you mentioned
earlier. Yeah, Star Fox Zero.
A lot of rail stuff on Wii, but other than that, Star Fox Zero. Oh.
Yeah, the last good one we got was Rez Infinite, which was just like a remake of Rez with new areas.
A couple extra levels.
So for people who like rail shooters, and we know people who like rail shooters, this is a must play. But rail shooters are a kind of genre that aren't for everyone. So I think that this belongs in fans of the genre. I also want to say, though, they're doing a full remake of the first Panzer Dragoon, which is probably the best one, and it's coming out this, holiday season for the Switch.
And there's a Panzer Dragoon level in Sonic Racing Transformed, and it's good.
Cool.
It's a flying level only. It's really good.
Man.
Yeah.
Did we play that one?
I don't know if we played that level, but
I don't know either.
We played that game once.
So I think this belongs in fans of the genre.
Sure.
And I just want to extol everyone out there who likes rail shooters. If you're a Star Fox fan, look out for the Panzer Dragoon remake. Or if you don't, if you have an Xbox, you can get this on back and pat. So it's worth playing.
Good. Another biggie. Ratchet and Clank. Okay. Ratchet and Clank, really good game.
Yeah.
I was more of a Jack and Daxter fan at this point, but I do remember and absolutely loved Ratchet and Clank. However, I will say, of the trilogy, Ratchet and Clank, Going Commando, and Up Your Arsenal, this one is easily the weakest one.
Easily. I mean, it's the first one to do
the
what
gun
it did.
selection it's good, but in Going Commando, that's when they really started making.
Yeah, that's when they really started fleshing it out.
It was like you could turn people into chickens with this gun,
right?
Or whatever. I'm not sure. Was that Ratchet Clank one?
I think they had that in Ratchet.
That was like
Clank
really
1,
the only zany weapon they had.
Right. Yeah.
It was like the chicken gun, and then in Going Commando, you have more of these guns. Like this one does. Like this is a shotgun, but if you level it up all the way, it shoots like lightning bolts and. You could you could upgrade your guns in this, but you made like the gold versions of them. But like you had like a flamethrower, a little blaster, a rocket blaster, and you really didn't have like these crazy...
It was more... So Ratchet and Clank 1 was more like what you think of in video game weaponry, at more traditional video game weaponry. That was Ratchet and Clank 1. And then with Going Commando and Up Your Arsenal, that's when they started to make it their own. Like they started to make this video game genre theirs. And that's something that I wanted to talk about with this first Ratchet and Clank. This genre didn't really exist before this game. This was the first of its kind, which is to say an action platformer that was about projectile-based shooting. Before this, we had like Ape Escape and other...
Yeah, you could like lock and look straight ahead and kind of do like strafing.
Right.
Techniques.
And that didn't really exist. And then later, Jak 2 turned into this sort of game, which was more of an action platformer.
Yeah.
But this was the grandfather of this series, or not this series, but the series, but this genre. But I think when we're talking about playing this game in 2019, just play the remake.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Play the PS4 remake. It's not the exact same game, but it pretty much is.
Yeah, it follows a lot of the same main plot points, and yeah, even have some of the same weapons in there as well.
Yeah. When it comes to like the story or like the development of story in the Ratchet and Clank series, it kind of does this. It's like an arc, and then it kind of dips, which is to say the first Ratchet and Clank game, there was some story. You learn what a Lombax is. You learn like not the true backstory of Clank. That comes later.
Yeah, you kind of get some Clank backstory.
You get some Clank backstory, but that really is fleshed out over the next two games. And then you get some more story in Going Commando, and then Up Your Arsenal, in my opinion, has the best story, the most story, and then they kind of drop with Deadlock, so forth.
Yeah, and Going Commando, they kind of smooch the pooch on a couple things that we'll talk about when we get to it.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there one day.
What are you feeling? Because I have a bad feeling where it's going.
So I think this belongs in Skippable. I feel okay about it. Okay. I'm fine with it.
That's what I was thinking.
So I'll say this. Ratchet and Clank was this was my first game of this type to play. I never played Jak and Daxter Precursor Legacy. So I was definitely a Ratchet and Clank kid.
I definitely think Jak and Daxter stands up better than Ratchet and Clank does.
Absolutely. Well, at least the first one anyway.
Yeah. That's
comparing the first two games, that one stands up better. So I was definitely a Ratchet and Clank kid. The humor, and it was a little more like teenager humor. Yeah, a lot of innuendos and stuff, which as a dumb like 11-year-old kid or whatever we were, that appealed to us. But all that said, I think it is skippable only because if the remake had never come out, we would have to figure out where it goes because it wouldn't belong in skippable. But because they did the remake, just play that.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
I think we can power through this next one.
I think so too.
Splinter Cell.
Yeah. A tremendous game.
Would you be willing to say this is like one of the first really good tactical stealth games?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because we had games like Hitman that we could have put on some of these lists, but the stealth wasn't all the way there yet.
Right. And of course, we've talked about the stealth in Metal Gear Solid. We've talked about stealth in Deus Ex. This was the first game that was designed to be a stealth game.
Really, can you even play it any other way?
No, you can't.
You have to be stealth.
If you try to go in guns blazing, you're going to get killed immediately.
And also, the most iconic night vision goggle sound.
Completely unrealistic having the three eyes, but it created such an iconic look. Everyone recognizes that moment.
You remember the advertising whenever you would just see the three green dots?
Yes.
So cool.
You knew immediately who it was. That was Sam Fisher. Michael Ironside did the voice of, an icon. Splinter Cell, as far as visually, it still holds up. I went and watched some gameplay, which is what I like to do that.
It still looks good on Xbox?
Still looks good.
On the original Xbox?
Because their lighting engine. That was the thing that was so amazing. It had such dynamic lighting that made it
you could shoot the lights out?
You could shoot lights out. You had a little remember this? You had a Palm Pilot that you could feed a camera through under a door, and you could see what people were doing on the other side.
Yeah, dude.
Splinter Cell 1 was such it was a revolution, and it has a similar arc as Ratchet and Clank, which is to say Splinter Cell 1, amazing. Pandora Tomorrow, amazing. My favorite in the series, though, Chaos Theory. Chaos Theory is when they perfected everything about Splinter Cell.
Before we started recording, I wish they would just put out a remaster
Oh my gosh, yes.
Integrate some online co-op.
That would be amazing, which they actually, I think that was introduced in Pandora Tomorrow. I don't remember.
There's one that has co-op.
It was one of the sequels, either this one or Chaos Theory, or Pandora Tomorrow or Chaos Theory. But okay,
totally rewards your stealthy and tactical choices.
Yes, absolutely. The technology, man, the sneaking around. You have to be careful about which, you have to be careful about what you're standing on when you're sneaking. If you're standing on gravel, it's gonna crunch. If you're standing on like whatever tile, then you can kind of be a little faster. There was so much in this game about about that kind of influenced the way that you played. And as a kid, it was another one of these moments where I'm like, this is video games now. I've never played a game like this, but I want this. And it created in me a love and obsession for stealth games. What do you think,
because I know we don't have much negative to say about this game. Do you think there is anything that the sequels do that the first one just kind of like, man, it would have been better?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, can you give me some, because I'm only familiar with the first one.
So I think the sequels did two things better, the technology and the story. Like I said, Chaos Theory is the best story they ever told in the series. And honestly, Chaos Theory has one of the best stories told this generation of games, maybe ever. The story in Splinter Cell 1 was there. It wasn't as influential and impactful as Chaos Theory's. And also, they just take everything that they did with the first game and ratchet it up in the sequels. So I think this belongs in fans of the series.
Really? Okay, I'll accept that.
Yeah. What were you thinking?
I was thinking either must-play or genre.
I think there is a Splinter Cell game that would belong in must-play, but it's not this one.
Okay, I can agree.
Yeah, Splinter Cell is a game that I have a ton of love for, but this is correct, I think.
Okay. So, fans of the series.
Yes.
Oh boy, Mario Sunshine, one of the most
if you
debatable 3D platformers.
I was just about to say, if you pick 10 people out of a crowd at a video game convention and you ask their opinion on Super Mario Sunshine, everyone's going to have a different opinion.
Yeah.
This is a very wildly ranging game as far as opinions go.
Unfortunately, for this situation, I'm one of those supporters. I love Mario Sunshine. Let me explain why.
Go ahead.
And if you don't agree, I would understand.
I'm gonna have a different perspective on this game because of my history, but you shoot.
So Mario Sunshine, coming off of the heels of Mario 64, a lot of people were a little upset with this one because it had the water stuff. You know, it had
flood.
Let's start this way. The story. Let's start there. Story's a little bit different. I like a little fresh story, you know?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Peach ends up getting kidnapped by Bowser, but they made it a little different. There's a Shadow Mario. He's kind of scary. You don't know what he's doing and why he's framing Mario. Mario goes to court and gets found guilty and goes to jail,
right.
And you're serving community service on this beautiful island that is becoming more and more dim because the shine sprites are going away. Something different, you know? It's not just, the princess has been captured, whatever.
Right.
It's a little bit more. You got this race of, they're called Piantas, the people that live on the island. Here's one thing I don't like. There's voice acting in this game.
Right.
And in the cutscenes, don't like it.
Yeah.
Doesn't fit. I don't need baby or Bowser Jr. speaking in full paragraphs. It's a little weird. And Bowser speaking in full dialogue.
Right.
Don't need that. But the gameplay, it was kind of still based. It felt like the Mario 64 gameplay, being able to wall jump, being able to jump the 3 jumps, all that stuff returns. The long jump does not return, but you do get the water pack, the flood
right.
pack. You can use the flood pack to shoot water at things. You can use it to hover over gaps. You get these nozzles. You get the rocket nozzle, the jet nozzle. You can like run really fast, or you can blast yourself into the sky. And then some of the levels and challenges are built around those. And one thing I also really liked about this game is that it was a consistent environment. So you could be on a level and be like, wow, is that an amusement park in the distance? And eventually you go to that amusement
right.
park. The levels didn't feel like they were just kind of floating in an abyss like Mario 64. We talked about this in our Banjo-Kazooie playthrough. Go check that out. But like if you fell off, it was like, I'm just on a really tall tree.
Right.
And if I fall off, I'm just going to fall off this really tall tree. Or like if I fall in the water, or the nasty water, I'm going to get hurt. The music's really good. It has that tropical steel drum music. It definitely fits the environment.
Right.
However, if you don't like tropical settings, you probably
This is all you get.
This is it.
Yeah.
There's a couple levels that are like underwater, and you go inside like a volcano and stuff. But other than that, it's really just like beaches. And I can see how people would be kind of aggravated. Like, it's just nothing but beaches and stuff like that. But Noki Noki Bay is totally an amazing looking level. All those the color palette, it definitely showed what the colors could do on the GameCube. And Yoshi was back. The Yoshi game.
Yoshi.
Yeah, Yoshi's kind of weird. He throws up juice. It's really strange. I really like this game. There's even areas that kind of feel like a precursor to Mario Galaxy, where they take your flood away and you're on these weird
little challenge areas. Yeah.
I really like this game. I don't think it belongs in must play.
Don't give me your take just yet. Let me give you my take. So we've talked about this a lot in this series and in all of Gamepad Pass, but to my great chagrin, I didn't have a GameCube as a little boy. I loved the Nintendo 64.
A little boy.
I was a little boy. That's the only thing I was. I loved this Nintendo 64, but for whatever reason, I had a PS2 and Xbox this generation, so I missed this game. I missed a lot of these games and I had to come back to them later. I went back to Super Mario Sunshine in 2015 because my wife busted out her old GameCube. And I was I've never played this game. I love all the Mario 3D platformers. I've got to give this a shot. It does not hold up very well.
Oh, yeah?
As playing it as a person who doesn't have any nostalgia for this particular game, this particular version
of the water graphics look great though.
They did. Yes, they absolutely did. Something that I didn't understand though, I remember starting this game and being like, why is it so dark? It's bright outside, but everything is dark. It's because I hadn't collected shines yet.
Get the shine, at least in the hub world.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was so confused by why is everything so dark? Excuse me.
That's kind of your sense of progression, because as you collect more shine sprites, there's like a radius that's around that tower.
Right.
And eventually it gets a lot brighter.
It gets brighter and brighter. But as a person who's coming to this in my 20s, having no nostalgia for the original game, I didn't have a good time playing it. And I want to offer that.
No Goombas, no Koopa Troopas. You didn't have any of that classic Mario stuff.
Yeah.
That's also kind of a takeaway.
I want to offer that as a person who never. I know a lot of people who played this when it came out and they didn't like it, and people who played this when it came out and they did like it a lot.
It's very divisive.
My experience is one of, I love this series. I love the 3D platformers, but I didn't play it until... I mean, we were in this console generation when I finally played this game.
For the time, whenever it came out, I mean, it was really the only... It was the next Mario 3D platformer. And you compare it to some other 3D platformers of the time, or of that era.
Well, it would be like Jack and Daxter.
Like Jak and Daxter, or like Ty the Tasmanian
Tiger.
Oh, yeah, stuff like that. Like
Vex.
Those off-brand ones. They still didn't hold a candle to Sunshine. I would not be opposed to putting this in fans of the series. I do think it could fit in fans of the genre, just because if you like 3D action platformers, you could roll the dice and see if you're one of those people that fit in column A or column B.
Sure, that was me. Yeah, for sure.
I think we can throw it in either one, and it would make.
I'll let you make this call, man, because I don't want to be a hater, and I want to say that my experience is very thin because I've only played it as an adult. I'll let you.
I will take the objective way out of this and say, let's put it in series.
Okay.
Just in case you're one of those people who plays it and you're like, wow, I don't like the water stuff, and that's all there is in this game.
Gotcha.
I can understand. And also, like, cleaning up the island. You might not. You might want to spend more time platforming and not shooting water at stuff. But it is a good game for, like, it's a good beginner 3D platformer, I think. It gets kind of hard in the end, though.
For sure, for sure.
We are talking about Time Splitters.
Time Splitters 2. Yeah, Dos. It is the sequel to Time Splitters.
Is a really good. It's a really good game.
Yes.
It has a story mode. The story really didn't take off until the third and final game.
Yeah, Future Perfect.
The story was kind of weird, for like you would jump through these wormholes and assume the roles of these characters, but you can tell that this is like GoldenEye. If GoldenEye was, if it still stood up.
If it was better.
I don't want to say if it wasn't good.
Better in a historical context. So I'll, again, similar to Sunshine, my experience with Time Splitters was kind of yours with Panzer Dragoon Orta. I only ever played the demo of Time Splitters 2, and that's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on Xbox, actually.
The story mode is a lot of fun. You go to all kinds of different environments, like Neo Tokyo, Cyber Tokyo, You go to like a caveman area. You go
Isn't
to
there like a western?
There's a western area.
Yeah.
You go to Notre Dame and like you're fighting zombies and stuff.
And the future.
There's the future. There's all kinds of cool scenarios, and that's what's cool about the game is that those different scenarios determine the different weapons you're using. So like if we're just playing multiplayer, we're like, hey, we want a Tommy gun from the 50s, and I want a laser gun from here, and then we can set up the weapon set and then go pick a level. The multiplayer is amazing in this game. A lot of people love it. It's kind of got that GoldenEye soft lock kind of gameplay. Dual wielding certain weapons and stuff like that, or every weapon in GoldenEye's case.
Right.
I think it's really good. The music, absolutely phenomenal. The music is, to this day, still great. You could probably play that music in a club and people wouldn't know the difference.
Oh man, I just remembered I need to put this out there because I remember making a note of this. The music for Morrowind, amazing.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the music.
It's the same composer who did the rest of the Elder Scrolls series
Jeremy
and
Soule.
KOTOR, which we need to say this. He just got accused of rape, so I don't know what that means about the future of the Elder Scrolls series and what the composition is going to be music-wise, but the music in Morrowind is really, really good.
It's really good music.
Let's talk about Time Splitters.
Anyway, back to Time Splitters.
Yeah.
Really good game. I love this. It's a shooter. If you like Perfect Dark, if you like GoldenEye, if you like arcade shooters and you want to have a great time with your friends, you can play as a monkey in this game. You can play as a gingerbread man in this game. You can play as like all kind. The character cast is just out of control. I love this game.
Yeah. I think I know where you're leaning.
Fans of the genre?
That's what I thought.
That's really the best place for it. I would say must play, but if you don't like, I feel like if you like current day FPSs and you go back to this, you might not necessarily like this. But if you just like shooters in general, this is good.
I would say this is before shooters were homogenized as like a specific thing.
Get the Xbox version.
Oh, really? That's the only one I ever played. I remember the demo being really hard. Was the full game really hard?
You could choose difficulties.
Oh, okay. Well,
at the beginning of the mission.
I don't think that was, if that was an option for the demo, I don't remember it.
The difficulty worked just like it did in GoldenEye, where like the higher the difficulty, the more objectives you had to meet.
Oh, right.
And of course, it was harder as well.
Cool.
Really good game though. Oh man, I want to play something right now. Okay.
The Wind Waker.
We know where it goes.
Yeah, we do.
We know where it goes. Go ahead and put it there.
Well, sure.
So this game is like almost every Zelda game in existence.
It's absolute magic.
It's a must play. It's really all right. So the worst thing I can say about this game, the worst negative, is what they fixed. Yeah, what they fixed in the re-release on the Wii U, which is sometimes sailing in the ocean can take forever, so they give you a faster way to do that.
Swift sail.
And then the Triforce charts.
Yeah.
That part is a giant blemish on an otherwise perfect game.
I want to say this about, before you...
Go ahead.
As far as the Triforce shards go, the Ionuma actually said in an interview that the Triforce shards are in there because they had 2 other dungeons that they were working on, but because of time constraints, they had to scrap them. And to help fill out the game more hours-wise, they put in the Triforce shards collectathon quest, which you have to do to beat the game.
And it's hard because you gotta pay, you have to have the money, and you can't hold enough money, so you have to grind and get money.
But he also said that the dungeons that they worked on ended up making it into other Zelda games. So we eventually got those dungeons. I don't know what they were. He didn't say.
Some of the boss fights are kind of whatever in this one.
It is, yes.
It probably has the weakest boss fights of any of them.
Right. It seems a little on the easy side for
and it also, a lot of people were really appalled at the art direction whenever this game came out.
Do I need to play that Jeff Gerstmann clip?
You probably so. But like, well, understandably so for some people, because they showed that Space World tech demo for the GameCube and they saw what could be. And then instead of getting that, they got like kind of cartoon. Yeah, which I'm fine with.
I'm not only fine with. I absolutely adore this style. It is very anime. It is very Studio Ghibli. It is like a perfect if you're gonna think about the Zelda franchise and you think about it being like a single line. I'm not talking about timelines. If you're talking about it being a line of series, if we're gonna have an offshoot of a different kind of Zelda game, I want that more than I want a gritty realism Zelda. I like because that's more of a fairy tale, and Zelda is a fairy tale. All the games are a fairy tale.
For this console generation, I think it was a really good art direction decision.
And does the art stand up?
Well, because not only does it still stand up, but I feel like you can, because of how basic some of the character models were, you could get a little bit more expressive with their faces.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Instead of like some of these 3D, like Time Splitters 2, for example, we were talking about earlier.
Morrowind.
And Morrowind, I mean, because those games were so big, you didn't get a lot of that expressive look on characters' faces and stuff like that.
If this generation if their Zelda had looked more like Morrowind, I don't know that this would be in the must-play category.
No.
We weren't at a point in time, technology-wise, where we could have that style look excellent.
Can you imagine a giant ocean with like water graphics and stuff?
It would look like garbage.
Yeah, it'd be hard to do for a game that big.
It was a brilliant decision to make this game like this because they wanted it to be huge. They wanted us to be able to explore the
Toon Link is his own character in Smash Bros.
He is. He is. Like, I remember when that game was announced, just like you did, and there was such drama, there was such fervor against the game's art style. But specifically because of that, it stands up to this day artistically. And that remaster looks insanely good.
Looks so good.
That's one of the best looking games on any platform.
Koji Kondo killing it with the music.
Oh, of course.
The music to Dragon Roost Island. And there's a lot of good fan service where if you really pay attention to where some of these islands were.
I got goosebumps thinking about that soundtrack.
Like the Deku Tree and Dragon Roost, Outset. Man, this is such a good game.
It's such a good game.
I don't think we can talk about this for more than 5 minutes.
I want to say one last thing about this game to just nail home the magic. Remember when we've heard Miyamoto talk about his original intention for Zelda. He wants Zelda to be this adventure. Like, you're going out, you're exploring caves, because he had that experience as a child exploring in his Osaka or wherever he lived. And he wants Zelda to feel like this. I'm going out as a young man or a young person, and I'm going to explore the open world and explore this environment. And that's what the original Zelda was supposed to be. That's what Link to the Past. That's what the intention of Zelda has always been. This one has that feeling more than any other Zelda until Breath of the Wild.
The Great Sea is playing in my head. Feels so good.
It is the most
adventure.
Yes, it is the most. I am becoming a full-grown person, and I'm going out to see the world for myself. More so than any Zelda until Breath of the Wild.
You don't have to go where it told you. You just go wherever.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow! I just found a giant tornado and a frog guy just blew me away.
Exactly. This game was way ahead of its time in that regard. One of my current game of the year for 2019. Spoiler alert for when we do that video is Outer Wilds, and it has so much Wind Waker DNA in it. Wind Waker is an amazing game. It's one of my favorite Zelda ever, and it belongs in Must Play. Must Play.
Hey, what'd you think about that list? What would you change? What do you think that we messed up? Like, comment, subscribe, and check out our other series. And we're going to be putting out another, was it 2003?
2003 is
we
next.
have to look up the list.
Oh,
all right.
That's one of my favorite things ever is looking at that list and deciding.
Oh, we got to go. Oh, it's like a 20-minute process. Bye.